I think, Satya, we should get started. We have 68 participants online, assuming all of them are there at the computer terminal.
Yes. So, should I give a brief introduction, then request you to chair the session. Introduction of speakers to the participants. So, sir, I'm just introducing. So it is my pleasure to welcome all of you to this last part of this workshop that we have already 2 days have already passed, and this is at the end we want to discuss this plenary session. Is very important, that the importance of marketing research during the pandemics. So making the right business decision is never easy in uncertain time. So we are going through a very uncertain time, and COVID-19 pandemics has given a new meaning to the word uncertainty. It is the time like this that the power and value of marketing research truly come to forefront. Everyone knows that the change is necessary both from practical point of view to meet government rules and also to understand the evolving need of the consumers. This is a new normal. There is increasing necessity of evidence-based insights through marketing research that we provide are more vital now than they have ever been. Understanding the mood, behavior, and sentiment of consumers will help you to decide what content to retain, what to pull, and where to focus new efforts. So in this context, we have organized this session at the end of the teaching, practicing marketing research. We want to listen from stalwarts, practitioners, and academicians also. So how, what are the role of marketing research? And there are 9 speakers, including myself. Professor Naresh Malhotra will chair the session. Before starting the session, I'm just briefly introducing the speakers. Although all are very well-known names, Professor Naresh Malhotra do not need any introduction because already has taken session yesterday. Professor Russell Boyle also has taken session. Is already just started now, just ended his session. And Ms. Preeti Reddy is CEO of Kantas Insight Division of South Asia. She has over 3 decades of experience in consumer marketing, research, and consulting over a several wide experience in different industries, FMCG, durable, retail services. Previously, she was also CEO of Kantar LMRB in Sri Lanka. Prior to that, she headed Mindscape, the strategic consumer consulting division of Technopark. And she is also a board of governance member of CME. And Mr. Sandeep Arora is presently the Executive Vice President and Head Enterprise Data Management, Datamatics Global Service, and is also serving as the President of Marketing Research Society of India. He is a business leader who brings a unique blend of both marketing research and technology. He has been championing the cause of global and local research and insights industry through his associations with MRSI and ESOMAR for over last decade. Also, Sandeep ji is also a member of CME governing board. Harish Narayan is our proud alum of IIM Lucknow, and Harish, he leads the overall marketing brand partnership in-house creative team set at Myntra. He is responsible for driving Myntra growth by all aspects of marketing, brand, digital performance, content, social loyalty, B2B, creative design, and he is a startup advisor also and angel investing. He has got a lot of awards, leading marketing roles of YouTube, a PAC based on Google Singapore office, both in B2B side. And recently he has been given award, IMI Indian Digital Award, CMO ACI Award, Peace Digital CMO Award. Mr. Anshuman Ghosh is a data science and strategy leader with 12, around 12 to 15 years experience, rich experience in leading technology, media, and retail companies. He is currently the head of data science at Sony Research India. He is setting up best class data science teams of Sony India, contributing to Sony's success in India. Charu Sharup Malik leads the consumer and business insights and analytics function for GSK Consumer Healthcare ISC. In this role, she has won many uh, awards like Global CBIA Innovation and Development Award. Recently, they have won MRSI Golden Key Awards 2020 for impactful communication. And Simant Bhargava has been working as a market research business consulting professional over the last 10 years. He has been working in e-commerce space in India for the last 7 years. Before this stint with Swiggy, he has also worked as Flipkart. Recently, they have also got the award MRSI Golden Key Award 2020. Ajay Kumar Khanna is Chief General Manager SBI. SBI is we are very much obliged to SBI for sponsorship. Also, Mr. Khanna has around 20 years experience in banking, marketing and services. So with this, I would like to, these are some brief introduction. We have given the details of the speakers. I don't want to waste much time on introducing the speakers. All are very good experience in their own field and lot of understanding about how marketing research is playing an important role in the time of COVID. Now I am handing over to Professor Malhotra to chair the session and setting the tone of the plenary session.
Thank you, Satya, and good morning to one and all. It's a pleasure to welcome you to this special plenary session on the role of marketing research during COVID-19. And as you know, whenever anything happens that affects human behavior, it automatically affects human marketplace behavior. And so marketing research is always relevant in that context. And we do have, as Satya has introduced, a slate of distinguished speakers. I normally open a session which I chair with my own comments on the topic, but I will not be doing that because we have been blessed with an abundance of speakers. Normally, we have about 4 to 5 speakers, and today we have about twice as many. I will request the panelists to focus on these 3 topics which were emailed to you by Satya. Do you think marketing research is becoming more important for business decisions during COVID-19? If yes, explain, citing your experience. How consumer behavior is changing across categories and brands during COVID-19? What are the important implications? And third, what, according to you, are the emerging trends of marketing research methodology during the time of COVID-19? So kindly focus on these 3 topics. And please, since we have 10 speakers and only an hour and 30 minutes have been allocated for this session, please limit your remarks to 6 minutes each. I'm sorry, but I'll have to draw down the curtains on 7 minutes so that we can have some time for audience participation. As I found out even yesterday, audience participation is important, and they have participants have very good, even excellent comments and questions. So I just want to be sure we have time in the end for that. For want of any better criteria, I'm going to follow the following order, which was emailed to me by Satya. And so let's try to make the seamless translation. And I leave this slide on so people can see the order. We'll start with Professor Russell Belk, with Satya, with Preeti, Sandeep, Harish, then with Anshuman, Charu, Simant, Pradhan, and Shri Ajay. So we'll follow this order for all the speakers, and kindly just as the previous speaker finishes, please step in, and then hopefully we'll have time for audience participation by way of question, comments towards the end of the session. So Russ, kindly get us started, and my thanks to all the speakers for donating their time and expertise and volunteering and, sharing their keen insights with us on this valuable topic. So Russ, please get us started.
Well, thank you, Naresh. I guess I'll just emphasize a few things. I just finished a 90-minute session, and so I'll keep it brief here. Uh, I've done a couple of webinars on the impact of COVID-19 on business, and both the large changes that might be able to take place in terms of things like climate change and income distribution and a basic universal basic income for countries, and the more micro impacts on individual businesses, on restaurants, on airlines, on a variety of different businesses that are impacted in different ways and are recovering in different ways. And of course, research is important because this is a shock to business and a shock to individual consumers. And the biggest shock that most of us as individuals and as collectivities have experienced in our lifetime. And so more research is necessary because it's impacted many businesses and many consumers. What I've been doing is primarily research with colleague Tunika Ghoshal, who was at Indian School of Business and is now at CUNY in New York. We were looking at a whole variety of sensory impact differences between rather high status and rather low medium status consumers in various places in India, such things as spiciness of food, flamboyance of clothing, and so forth. This is sort of a follow-up to that, looking at young women, early 20s, working in call centers primarily in back office operations in various places in India. And we're finding this medium of Zoom to be quite useful, that we've used a professional interviewer that we've used in the past to do these qualitative interviews, but then the two of us, that is to say, Tanuka and I, can be lurking in the background as blank screens, and we can come on at the end of the interview, or even sometimes in the middle, to suggest additional questions that we would like to have understood. For my part, since I don't speak Hindi, which is the major language of parts of the interviews, I had to rely on Tanuka for doing a part of that. But we're also using, because we're studying primarily in this case, clothing, we're looking at the impact that COVID-19 had on clothing choice and the differences in clothing among these women in their day-to-day business lives, as well as in their party lives, their home lives, their wedding celebration lives, and so forth. And we're finding that we can have them photograph or videotape and send us a live feed the clothing in their wardrobe, the clothing that they're wearing, the clothes that they normally wear to work, because most of them are working from home now. In doing that, we can ask follow-up questions. What would you wear to a party, and so forth, for occasions that are not present. And so we're finding, for instance, that shorts and jeans and even blouses showing the midriff are common during the weekday, but not for business, obviously, and not for party. In that case, sari would be the common dress for wedding or party with friends. And so we're able to get at some of the reasons for that, but the video helps in this particular case by being able to actually show us things in their closet that they're talking about, rather than talk about in the abstract. We also have some exercises where we show them various clothing and ask to what degree they would respond to that favorably or unfavorably, and again, able to probe why in this case. So that's my personal experience. I think others that are in business will perhaps have more to say. So let me stop there.
Okay, thank you, Russ. Satya? Satya, are you there?
Hello, everyone. So we have conducted a nationwide study during the COVID in April, May 1st, then September. I'll just give some insight and implications for marketers and also policymakers. So this study was conducted in 104 cities across 23 states, and the study, Mr. Mohan Krishan, Ashush Agarwal, policies founder, policies, and also Cadence International has helped us for the study, data collection, and IRE also Mr. Vishwajit Mahapatra for tech, because we have got the support from the study. And this study has given some important implications during April, so that all the media have published. Most important thing what we have found, not the virus, but economic crisis is the biggest source of worry under lockdown. So this economy is the economic. We have got that 32% people are worried about economic impact, whereas only 15 to 16% people are telling they are very much skeptical about health issues, and also people are very much worried risk of 14% people are risk of getting infected, whereas 15% people are worried that people behaving irresponsibly. And those who are worried and emotion related to COVID-19 pandemics, 80% people who are very much worried, they are very much around 44% of fear and sadness. So about 3 out of all the people are confident. We have found that because of government measures, from lockdown 1 to 2, 57% to 67% people confidence has increased. In the lockdown 1, 57% people are confident, whereas lockdown 2, 63% people are very much confident, because there are some measures taken by government. But still, although people are looking very confident outside, internally, because of they are worried because of how they will manage this uncertainty for long term. This was in April, and also we have got stocking up, very interesting. People, although people are like hoarding behavior, daily cooking essentials, most overstocking with rice, flour, cooking oil. We have got a very interesting insight that chocolates emerged as an interesting item that consumers stocked up to keep kids happy and make a dessert. Also, another important implication we have got during that time, April, May, people are willing to compromise about preferred brand. So they want to experiment with newer brands, and 54% willing to try other brands in lockdown. And this shift may have a long-term impact on the consumer's brand consideration set and final brand choice. Typically, a significant proportion of consumers who experiment with new brands tend to shift if the experience is satisfactory. This is the biggest challenge for newer brands, for the consumer's inertia to be try a new brand. What we have got another interesting insight that people want to they are very happy, although people are sad, but they have changed routine and media consumption habit. 43% people are happy with the way they are spending time in lockdown, and only 27% express unhappiness. And people, those are people having high income, we have seen more than 10 lakhs, so they are happy. But those who are less income, they are worried, so not able to go to outside. That was the major thing, that they're not enjoying, lack of physical exercise, spending time with the family, all these things. So this has a better implication for marketers. Apart from this, recently in September, October, we have done same study across these 104 cities. What we have got very important implications. People, to cope up with this COVID, they have some approach strategies and some avoidance strategies. In approach, immunity boosting measures they have taken, like home remedies, supplements to boost immunity, technology-enabled social distancing, which includes studies like increased use of virtual media software. Preventive coping includes studies like use of hand wash and sanitizer. Reduced touch points, which includes studies like purchasing more from online stores. Financial prudence includes studies like reduced spending, non-essential items they want to avoid. Apart from this avoidance coping strategy, the emotion regulation consumption includes studies like snacking on junk food, consuming alcohol, they want to avoid. Distraction includes studies to keep oneself occupied, like increased time on online games, social media, and OTT for people. Impulsive buying also, uh, they want to avoid unplanned purchases. That is a very important thing. And another important implication of the study is that permanent shift in consumer habit and lifestyle. Nearly 94% of people who strongly agree on adopting this approach of coping strategy are willing to continue them even after COVID-19. So this is a very important implications for marketers, and because whatever the adoption people are doing now, so there will be permanent shift in consumer behavior. So it is very much important to understand consumption pattern and behavior, and accordingly brands adapt themselves. And I have not mentioned the name of my doctoral student, Mr. Avinash Jain. He has significantly initiated this study.
Okay, thank you, Satya. Preeti?
Yeah, hi everybody. Hi, Professor. I'm just going to, in the interest of time, I'm just going to add to what Satya has said. Just a couple of things. One is, as you rightly said, Dr. Malhotra, there is more research happening. People have not stopped doing research. In fact, marketers are appreciating that there are fundamental changes in consumer behavior, and they actually need to re-understand their consumer and their relationship with brands. That's one part of it. The other is in terms of methodologies, it's the trends and change of methodology was already happening. What the pandemic has done is that it has accelerated that. So we were moving towards online, towards behavioral, towards social media. We were moving towards the use of existing data. What happened during the pandemic was that for at least 3 or 4 months, we were just not able to do data collection. And so, it was really a black swan moment for the Indian MR industry. And I think we responded exceedingly well. And we have actually, because of the pandemic, moved several paradigms ahead in terms of being digitizing.
I think, Preeti, we can't hear you.
Yeah, somebody muted me. Okay, anyway, now can you hear me?
Yeah, thanks.
So that said, I like, we also tracked the consumer throughout the pandemic, and even as recently as early this year, we did a survey on consumers. And a lot of what we found is what Satya has been saying, this, what shall I say, the financial prudence, the insecurity, the fact that they have actually been economically impacted, and they are very cautious in the way they're buying now, and the overall sentiment is largely negative and cautious. And they're focusing on purchase of essentials, etc. And the way they're looking at investment is also changing. Safety and security of capital is more important than higher returns. A few points that I would like to add to what Satya had said. One is that, though initially social distancing actually encouraged people to stay apart, it actually brought people together in many ways. And the home became the new, they felt a greater connection with their families, extended communities, and they saw that the early quarantine days were an opportunity to nurture family relationships. But that, that has, that heady sense of togetherness is actually losing its sheen. More than half actually want to get back to college or workplace or school or whatever. And the home, in a sense, has lost its innocence. It is no longer a refuge. It's a shrinking personal space, and they're prisoners at home with limited space and too many discrete activities to be done. So that initial happiness is no longer there. The other is that because of that also, there is a return to the tribe, which is people are restricting themselves to smaller siloed personal circles. There's a hesitation to return to broad socio-cultural groups. It's like, basically, I don't know you, I don't want to know you. You might put me at risk. and they will continue to practice social distancing and keep avoiding busy places in the future. The concern for health has really heightened. In the early days when we used to talk to consumers about what they think they should be doing for health versus what they're doing, there was a huge gap. But now they're actually doing various things to stay healthy and fit, to build physical immunity. And the other thing is that they are also trying to build economic immunity. And the way that they think that economic immunity can be built is actually by being Atmanirbhar. So the Atmanirbhar message, building economic immunity for your community and for your country. So that is really resonating with them. We know that social media has found its soul. I mean, it's now a digital life. It's the lifeline for education, for entertainment, for work, for all of that. But what it also has done is that it has given people the needed time for personal pursuits and self-education. So self-improvement has become the new purpose in life. Everybody's learning new skills. Everybody's doing stuff on online that they weren't able to do earlier. And a couple of other things. One is that COVID has actually raised really difficult questions on gender roles. Men are facing the exposure of their domestic inexperience because they're staying at home under the shadow of loss of work or loss of income, and they're not much use at home. And that's led to a feeling of helplessness and melancholy among men. On the other hand, women, managing elasticity of home and work, etc., is not new for women. She's very experienced in expanding and contracting her roles. And this economic uncertainty has actually forced her to become creative. So women entrepreneurs, they're focusing on new skills. They're handling the pandemic with more agility, intelligence, and resilience. And finally, with the fact that movements are restricted, spending is cautious, buying behavior has changed, and availability is a concern. Like Satya was saying, brand loyalty is taking a beating. If that my brand is not there, I will just get another brand. And so brands also have to appreciate that, and they must solve and not sell any longer. Their consumer expectations from brands have changed, and they want them to be there for a purpose, help them in their everyday lives, and care for them in a very practical sense. So those are some of the things that we, in addition to what Satya was saying, some of the things that we have found.
Thank you, Preeti. Thank you so much. Sandeep?
Hi, hello everyone. Can you hear me, Dr. Malhotra?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Hi, hello everyone. Hello, Professor Dash and everyone else. Many thanks for inviting me over again. It's a pleasure to be part of this discussion today. I will actually start by, so I was going through one of the reports recently published by SOMAR. It was called Insights in the Time of COVID-19, which actually matches with the kind of title we have here. One of the things it basically says is that it predicts a 1-year decline in the global MR industry up to 25.3% for this particular year. So had this COVID not happened, this $90 billion industry otherwise would have actually grown by 3.9% globally. So that's a kind of impact that we are sort of seeing, and which sort of corroborates with what Preeti also mentioned, that the initial days were sort of quite a mess, actually, given the fact that a lot of things have just come to a grinding halt. But then everything sort of picked up and we have started to move along quite well. Having said that, I think it's also a good time for us to take a pause and see as to what all has changed and what all is changing. And I'm likely to focus more at a macro level trends for the industry versus seeing as to what is it that's changing at the consumer's end. So some of the things that one can really see is the fact that the whole operating model is sort of changing quite swiftly. So from the primary data collection that we earlier sort of used to rely on as a consumer research, I think the combination is really moving towards connected data as to how can you get different types of data and how can you now combine it to basically get the answer. We have not moved away from our rice on the tray, which is answering the business question, but how we used to answer, I think, has changed. So earlier, our methodology would be defined by the business question, and therefore the data would get collected accordingly. Today, basis the business question and the availability of data, the methodology changes. I think that's a huge sort of a change that all of us are really seeing in the industry, which basically, leads to my second point as to how earlier we basically needed researchers who were from MBA background, who were from stats background, psychology background. Now we are moving towards data scientists, which actually is somebody who understands how to connect different data points and come up with a story and identify trends in across all of these points. So therefore, that entire supply base of the kind of resources we had, the kind of model that we had is changing. Earlier, we used to work on a CPI model, which is the cost per interview. That again is changing, and I'm sure Preeti and others who are here would also sort of agree with that. The fact that we are moving towards answering the business question, which actually is not a function of sample size alone, but a function of us putting together a number of data together and therefore generating insights. The entire model of CPI does not hold relevant anymore. And while it may sound quite silly, actually it is the fundamental basis on which the whole research industry is built. So it is a far, far more impacting variable, in terms of where this industry is headed. One other interesting insight that I sort of came across was our competition. It's also changing drastically, during this COVID and after the COVID, of course. If you were to look at, in US, we publish something called the Honomichael Top 10, which actually is now called the US Top 50. It was called Honomichael Top 50, now it's called US Top 50. And earlier, typically, you would find research companies listed in these top 50, Nielsen, Kantar, and the works. You'd be surprised to hear that if I was to tell you that in the latest report of 2020, out of top 20, only 6 are full service research firms. Yeah. And then others are digital data analytics companies, the likes of Salesforce.com, Adobe Systems, Epsilon, etc. 5 of them, basically, who come in in the top 20. Then there are other DIY platform companies, which are companies like sample panel providers, and all of those, basically the Dynata and others of the world. And last but not the least, you will find in the top 10, there are 3 consulting companies who are coming in too. McKinsey & Company, Booz Allen Hamilton, etc. So this is not something that was heard of earlier. The whole competition is changing. Your expectations that the clients have from you are changing. How we would do the work is changing. The people who would do the work for us is changing. And therefore, it's a whole lot of things which are actually changing at the same time. So I think I know that 6 minutes are almost over, so I'll basically bring it to a close. COVID has actually catalyzed us moving into this new direction very, very quickly. And life before COVID and life after COVID, while it has some relation in terms of what we are here to do, but how it is to be done, I think has completely sort of changed. One of my favorite sayings, I'll close with that, is from Paulo Coelho. He's one of my favorite writers. And he says that not all storms come to disrupt your life. Not all storms come to disrupt your life. Some come to clear your path too. And I think this is one of those storms which is helping us clear our paths and moving into the digital journey that is needed so much in a very, very fast way. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Sandeep. Harish, you're next, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Malhotra. And thanks, Professor Dash, for the kind invite. I'm very happy to be here. I'll take a more practitioner approach to this. I'm probably the first, brand or company that is speaking in this esteemed panel. Um, it's been a very good year in terms of learning. That's what I will start with. We all very very good points made by all the speakers before me. So it will be more of an add-on. But I'll give you the brand side of things and how we are looking at research and marketing, right? So just to give you a view into how Mintra's journey has been since last March. So April and May, we were almost zero sale because we were essentially a non-essential good in terms of what the Indian government had classified, which meant that fashion couldn't ship anything, right? So Mintra is, for those of you who don't know, India's biggest fashion and lifestyle online platform. Now, we couldn't ship anything. Then, starting mid-May onwards, the lockdown started easing. We could get back to business. And June was the first, it's the period of our end of season sale. So that is the big time when we make a big shift. We decided to go ahead with the sale, even though we were in the middle of a pandemic. And we thought that, this is the way to give a big boost or shot in the arm to the entire fashion industry. And as leaders in the industry, we should go ahead and push for it. It was one of the most successful events from a learning perspective, from a team perspective. And then in September, we had our big push for festive season. We launched a brand campaign then, and our festival offers went live then. And then the end of season sale in December. So that was the sequence of events that happened. Tremendous learning journey, and how it connects back to research. Market research, and I would rather say understanding our customers a lot more deeply, became the most important thing we could do at that time. We had no idea whether users would shop for fashion as they did before, what would change. So we actually went and did lots of research, both qualitative, quantitative, and even using our first party data, understanding how users are reacting to different types of content we put out, the various categories that we sell. And we realized that there were some fundamental shifts, right? So we have spoken about this a lot. And in fashion, the fundamental shift was people were getting more into essentials and categories like comfort wear. The workwear and occasion wear went down, and that came back during the festival season. So these kind of learnings were super important for us to plan our whole marketing communication, catalog, buying, supply chain. Everything was revolving around understanding the customer deeply. And this gave us a huge benefit because we took the time during COVID. So during the months of lockdown was our busiest period when it came to customer research. So we spent a lot of time, effort, money actually to deep dive into customer behavior. What do they like and don't like? How do we communicate safety? How do we talk about selection and fashion in a situation where people are not stepping out? So a lot of good learning happened. And all our campaigns post May have had these kind of things in the center of the communication. So our June campaign actually talked about India's biggest selection, but also safely delivered to your doorstep. The September campaign talked about how we will help you bring back color and joy into your life and help you express yourself with your family and friends. So the tonality changed, and that all came from deep understanding of our customers. So we do brand tracking every day, every month, which tells us if our imagery parameters, equity parameters are moving in the right direction. We understood how pricing should change during this time. We did extensive research on the brand campaign itself, on storytelling. We use a lot of first party understanding and look at our own platform, what is moving fast and what is not moving, and we tweak our communication accordingly as well. And what are the categories to focus on, right? And how to we went quite big on tier 2 tier 3 users in the last 4 months, and how to talk to that user differently on the app via visual communication and imagery, and off the app in our communication in a video ad. How to talk to them differently, or should we even talk to them differently? All of these questions got answered, and more understanding of our users in the last 6 months helped us tremendously to continue to grow and continue to remain successful. If we had not done that in-depth research during the lockdown and immediately post-lockdown, we would not be where we are today. So that is the crux of every decision that we made in the last 6 months, and that has tremendously helped us during these very unpredictable times. And what has changed is, I would say, the expectation from our partners is speed. So earlier we could take 2-3 months to understand and put out a research, do qualitatives, debate it, and then do a research again. The speed of response and the speed of insight generation has shrunk, right? So the timing has shrunk and the speed has tremendously increased. So I would need answers to these kind of strategic questions almost in a week's time, right? Or a couple of weeks or 3 weeks. So speed has become very important. Things change very, very quickly. So what is true this month may not be true next month. So getting quick answers and insights on what is the need of the hour has become very important. So from a practitioner point of view, that's what I would say. In-depth customer understanding, the time we spend understanding what the change helped us tremendously. And the expectation from the industry is more speed. I know my time is up, so I hope that was useful. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Harish. Anshuman?
Yeah, sure. Am I audible to all of you?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. So first of all, a big thanks to Professor Das, and I am Lucknow, and I'm especially honored and privileged to be on this panel with all the stalwarts, but specifically Professor Malhotra and Russell Belk, because I remember 12 years back I could hear you in international conferences, and Professor Malhotra's book on marketing research was the Bible for me during my PhD, and in terms of marketing research and understanding of that. And Professor Belk, your articles on consumer behavior and psychology and all those were like super fascinating. So, to be on this panel with all of you is a huge honor and privilege for me. Now coming to the discussion point, I'll reiterate one point which Preeti ma'am has discussed already. I would probably think that we are probably looking at COVID because it's a recent event and a big event, and it impacted life of everybody. But I think in terms of the impact, I would reiterate that it probably accelerated many of the macro trends instead of creating those trends. And I'll come to that why I'm saying so. So I'll cover 3 aspects of it. First will be the meaning of research. Second will be little bit on the digital and online ecosystem. And third will be data science, because that is the area I am working on last 5 years or so for Disney, then Target, Grab, and now for Sony. So coming to first the meaning of research. So I enrolled for my PhD program almost 14 years back from now, and that was marketing research and marketing research. And we got all this training, we read the articles, attended the conference, and I had a very different understanding of research. And that is probably the understanding which most of the participants here will have. That there is a research problem, and you create a research design, you do literature review, and you have a hypothesis, you have models, then you collect data, and then you use statistical tools to analyze. And I attended a session very briefly in the morning, which reminded all those statistical tests. And if the sample size is small, right, you have t-test, and there are a lot of other tests, right? So that paradigm of the research was my understanding of research, 10 years back. Then when I joined Disney Star TV, my understanding changed a little bit, which is, as some of the points probably Harish is mentioning, industry wants fast results. Sometimes they just go into the data and try to find out something instead of doing a lot of literature review or research design, etc. And now that I have worked last in a startup which was in the ride hailing and food delivery space, and now with Sony, I'm working on their online and OTT space. The company I'm working for is called Sony Research India, but here the research means very different, right? So some examples can be a computer vision problem or NLP problem or creating a recommendation system. We call them research and want to create something very new there, but that research meaning of that is very different from what we probably think of marketing research. So we may not start with a hypothesis or literature review. The paradigm may be very different from traditional research where we just have a lot of data, and then how do we use to create models which are more of computer algorithms to process the data, right? So understanding of research for me has changed much. And also like simple things like sample size. So at one point of time, I read, papers in top journals, which had sample size of 50, 100, 200, 500 like that. And even for my PhD to collect, few hundred sample, it was very difficult. So, getting the data, and many of you probably have worked on primary research. So getting the data itself was a big thing. But for my last 2-3 experiences, the problem was not getting the data. The problem was that we had too much of data, right? So in one of my last company, we had data for 200 million customer, and I have to create a representative sample. So the problem was, once we have so much of data and so many variables, it is not a problem of having the data about the customer, but you have too much data. What should you focus on? What to do and how to do things. So it was a very different world. In one world, it was a scarcity of data was the biggest problem. And in my current world, the biggest problem is too much of data or abundance of data. Okay. Now coming to the second trend of digital, I think this is where, when I mentioned some of the trends have been accelerated, I think all of you have probably failed that, right? For example, e-commerce, if you see the data, it was growing, but till 2017, it was just 10% of overall retail market. And currently it is reaching some 20%, which is like, 100% increment, which could have happened. Probably it would have taken 10, 20, 30 years, right? And the same thing probably led to the impact of stock prices of Amazon, Zoom, and all those, online or digital players, because a lot of those digital macro trends have been accelerated because of COVID. It is not that those wouldn't have happened without COVID, right? And even probably, working from home and using these digital platforms probably would have happened, but maybe more gradually. And in addition to that, in terms of specifically market research, earlier always we had to go to the market and collect data. But now, to get many of that data, for example, of course, big companies like Kantar, Nielsen, they're still conducting surveys. But Google also comes up, with a lot of interesting insight, which industry is growing, which industry is not growing, what are people searching, what are they doing, and how it is changing month on month, week on week. And they send, some interesting trends report, which they're doing based on the data that they have, and same applies to social media. In case of Twitter and all, we get very real-time data, but otherwise also we can get a lot of data which can be processed. Okay, so the last point that I want to take 1-2 minutes on is data science. So kindly, as I mentioned, I've been working in data science field more than probably market research field. But I think when I first learned about data science, it was a bit of positive surprise for me, because in market research, we talk about something like a primary research, where you go collect the data and then do analysis. And we also talk about secondary research, assuming that, some data is there and how do you analyze, what technique to use. And, a lot of data science probably has similarity to secondary research, not so much about primary research. But one of the biggest, I think, difference is something that I mentioned earlier also, is the volume. For example, earlier also I'll go to the customer, collect the data from 10 customer and probably compute some average, right? And I could do that with hand or with some other software. But now the same problem, if I have for 100 million or 200 million customer, many of those things that I did traditionally will not work because of the sheer volume and the scale of the things. And that is why the one thing that probably I did not focus much when I learned marketing research is something computer programming, right? And that is a core element, which is probably in market research also we talk about domain knowledge, we talk about maths and stats. Those two components are still there in data science, but the computer programming, which we use to make things scalable, use the big data and create those algorithms, is a key, differentiator and a big change. Probably I'll just end with one example of that. So for example, when I worked for Disney Star TV earlier, which is a media or TV company, if I have to understand the customer, we conducted surveys with Kantar, Nielsen, etc. Went to customer, had a big inventory of questions, brand tracking, NPS, etc. And asked them, what shows you want, why you want, what you want to watch, why you want to watch, do you like actors or drama or what, right? And those surveys we used to do month on month and get the data. Here for Sony, I'm currently building, my team is building a recommendation system for our online OTT platform. The problem is very similar, that what customer is watching and what they want to watch, and I have to serve them. But to solve the same business problem, I'm not going to the market to do a survey or something. I have the data from my app and other sources about all the customer, almost more than 100 million customer. And our team, which will be a very small team, will be working on all that data, create computer algorithms to understand consumer preferences without asking them any explicit question, and then create the recommendation system, which I think all of you probably use Netflix, you know of that. Create such a system which can then provide customized, personalized recommendation to each of the user. So the business problem remains very same, but the approach and the tools have probably changed very significantly. So with that, I'll end my insights here. Thank you.
Thank you, Anshuman. Ms. Charu?
Yeah, hi. I hope I'm audible to everybody. So we have been hearing a lot about how people have tracked the research during the COVID time. I would like to actually bring about a different perspective, which is how the businesses or the organizations have leveraged these trends in terms of, uh, using the business decisions, making the right decisions, making faster decisions. So, in terms of consumer trends, what we have been noticing in line with what most of the speakers have talked about, there has been a very quick digital acceleration. And this is not just amongst the consumers, because being a pharma company for us, it's important to also track the experts. This has happened also across the healthcare practitioners, that we have seen that, the digital usage of apps, the Practo, Librates, and all of the world have become much more accelerated. In terms of consumer trends, what we have seen, the consumers have become A, conscious about health and hygiene. B, they have become very, very proactive about health. When I say proactive, they are consciously taking medicines or practicing things to ensure that they do not fall ill, or they do not fall victim to infections like COVID, flu, because right now there is no clarity in their minds about what kind of viral infections they're going to get. They have become very, very cautious spenders. In fact, in this regard, what is really coming up is the brand choices. They are actually becoming very selective about the brands that they trust. They are actually choosing brands which are known to them, and they have become very, very cautious spenders. So these are the digital trends that we have noticed amongst the consumers. Now, how it has impacted the research methodology, I would say, I think all our research partners have been very, very quick in embracing this change, and moving from face to face to online digital data collection has become a possible norm. And to be very honest, from a business perspective, we did not really see any gap coming in terms of the kind of insights we were getting or the kind of data we were getting by moving from offline to online digital data collection methodologies. So I would really say that, our partners, research partners, have been very, very successful in that. The third part of it is that how did it impact us as a business company? We had to be very quick in taking decisions using these trends to keep track with the consumers. In fact, we have been using a lot of social listening data to uh, create certain campaigns. And in fact, two of our campaigns were two of our biggest brands, Sensodyne and Eno. They were actually turned around within a week's time, and they were launched in the month of April, tracking and tapping these consumer insights. And they have actually won a lot of industry awards at the back of these campaigns. So Eno's campaign about food experiments, do it yourself, and this whole phenomena about, people sitting at home and therefore becoming new chefs, that was the insight that we took forward and created the campaign for Eno. And Sensodyne as a brand, we took forward that for the love of food, which was basically that even sitting at home, you can continue enjoying what you love in terms of the food choices. This was a campaign that we took forward, and both the campaigns have really resulted and given us strong business growth as well as appreciated across different platforms. So I would say that COVID has definitely impacted all our lives. It has made us realize that anything can happen anytime. But I feel that there have been some positive changes, some negative changes. It has accelerated certain trends and certain practices which would have taken years to happen. But at the same time, it has also made us conscious about our own personal spaces, brought the families closer, given us importance of what is health and hygiene. And people have become very, very conscious about, I mean, small things like uh, throwing the garbage on the road, on the roadside. People have become conscious about not throwing it because they know that it's going to help impact their health and hygiene in some way. So I would say that COVID is a mixed bag or a mixed blessing for all of us. And as a business, yes, we have tried to keep pace with the changing times, with the changing consumer. and have managed to keep pace with it. That's all I had to share. Any questions, I would be happy to answer.
Yeah, there'll be time in the end for questions. So thank you,
Sure.
Charu. Simant?
Yeah.
Hey everyone. First of all, I would like to thank Professor Satya for sharing this opportunity, and coming and talking to along with industry stalwarts. Coming on to the topic, I'll just break it down into a couple of minutes on each of the three questions that we are discussing. First one, in terms of how has market research become more important, right? We saw some numbers where we saw that the industry has seen some sort of lull period where the business went down, and now we're estimating the business to come back up, right? But in terms of importance of research in companies, especially a company like ours, that has elevated a lot, because in moments of crisis and in moments of years like this, where it's a lot of learning that you can get from the consumers, MR or primary research becomes more and more important. Uh, Fortunately, in a company like Swiggy, we get to see both sides, where we have a lot of data captured by the consumer behavior and our data science team, where we see a lot of consumer trends changing. But what is equally important is building human intelligence and answering the whys behind those trends, right? And both of these things have to go hand in hand, and that's where the importance of research has gone up in the last 1 year. And a lot of business decisions, marketing campaigns, etc., have been based on the research that we have seen in the in the last 1 year, right? Now, in terms of consumer, I'd like to call out a couple of things. I think Preeti and Charu have already called it out. That consumer has become more conscious. He is more conscious about health. He's more evaluative about the decision they're making. They're not just purchasing a product or service, they're also making a choice to trust the company that they're dealing with. And that means that they would be a little more demanding when it comes to delivery of that service, or the performance from that product. Right? So that's the basic change that has happened in consumer behavior. And as Satya also said, there are some of these things are here to stay, right? Consumers would continue to behave in this manner, at least in the near future, and we'll have to monitor and see how those evolve in the future. But some of these things are things that we have to consider when we're building businesses and services later on. Some of the other changes that have happened is, first of all, reverse migration, where consumers from bigger cities who had settled in, migrated from small cities, went back, right? A decent set of our consumers went back to their native towns and started working from there. That means that businesses in major cities, they have to find new sources. They'll have to build the base further. Versus in smaller cities, we saw businesses, the business rise up organically, because people have gone back to those cities, right? So that was one major impact. Now, since this is a data science impact, we also need to understand, this is an insight from data science, we also need to understand what are the occasions, right? And build some human intelligence around this. And that is where importance of MR again comes in, where we try and understand what are the new occasions people are ordering in for, right? Again, it has been called out earlier that people have been brought closer in closer groups with families, etc. Now, this has also led in our industry for higher group orders, right? Which again leads to the impact that we have to be prepared with delivery of bigger orders, right? So that again requires understanding, and we build that service basis consumer understanding that, okay, what are the things that we need to take care of when we are delivering bigger orders, right? Similarly, people have become more health conscious, as called out earlier. Basis further understanding here, we started off with Health Hub. So now these are all application of research and starting off new business lines. For example, essential services were more important. Delivery of grocery was more important. We started off with that. We started off with Instamart, which is now a decent business line for Swiggy. We started off with delivery of meat. We started off with Swiggy Genie. All of these initiatives are new business lines which are basically coming because of the research that we were able to do in this space. And the root of all of these initiatives lies in the research that you do with the consumers, right? So all of these initiatives have somewhere been tied up basis the human intelligence we were able to build in the system. Now, in terms of research methodologies that have happened, so I would tend to agree with previous speakers that some of these changes have been happening in the industry. There were companies which were doing good work online, and this year the work has accelerated, right? So if I talk about doing qualitative research online, that was something which has really accelerated in this particular year, where all of the work that we are doing right now is online with consumers. Earlier, you can go to the consumer's house, you can see how they are living, you can see what are the things, non-verbal cues you can pick up better. But with online, the things have transitioned, and the kind of insights you're getting are equally good. So that's sort of a sorry.
So one more minute.
Oh yeah, I'm just wrapping up. Uh, so to conclude, I'd like to say that data science importance have definitely increased, but we need to understand that going forward as researchers, we need to bring both of these together, which is data science and human intelligence together, to have better insights, build better solutions going forward for business questions. Right? So that's how the future of research would come in.
Well, thank you very much. And I'll request the remaining two speakers to also kindly stick to the time limit. So Pradhan.
Pradhan sir could not join because
Okay.
due to some last minute exigencies.
Okay, let's have Shri Ajay.
Yeah, thank you very much, Professor Malhotra. I would like to thank Professor Dash for giving me this opportunity to be here amongst all marketing stalwarts. I'm a banker. I represent State Bank of India, and I would like to share with you that we have a customer base of 463 million. So I can say that we represent Indian banking industry. Well, I would focus on how consumer behavior is changing towards banking products and services during COVID-19. And from users' point of view, I can share with you that during lockdown and thereafter, there was a long lockdown in India. During lockdown and thereafter, all the bankers started feeling the importance of the alternate channels. The brick and mortar branches still remain there, but the dependence on POS, dependent on internet banking, digital delivery, suddenly increased. State Bank of India was also focusing on digital channels for quite some time, but the speed has accelerated during this period, resulting in more investment on technology, especially regarding the digital delivery. It has also been felt that just offering digital products through apps will not be enough, because all banks are now offering digital products to the customers, but the customer experience is going to be the differentiator. How customer is experiencing the use of the app, that is going to be the differentiator. There is more focus now on data analytics, machine learning, and artificial intelligence to predict customer behavior and the customer demand. If I share about the products of our bank, then I would like to share with you that on personal and consumer loan, this portfolio has increased significantly during COVID period. Last year, that is 2019, we were selling 50,000 personal loans per month. This year, 2020, these loans have increased to 1 lakh, that is 100,000 loans per month. So almost double. Similarly, health insurance also suddenly there is a surge during the last 10 months. And again, people are preferring the digital delivery method. Even people have now started availing gold loans, so they don't have any aversion to monetizing the gold they had earlier, resulting there to that our gold loan portfolio, which was around 4,000 crore has increased to 20,000 crores as on 31st of December. And this is mainly because of two reasons. One is, of course, need of the consumers, and second is that the convenience. Since we offered the gold loans on digital platform, the customers, I believe, they came forward and availed the gold loans also. Again, the preference for own vehicles, we have seen that it has increased. So those who have the repayment capacity, they are now preferring own vehicles and they are coming for the auto loans. Even in home loans, the ticket size has increased marginally, probably because in metros now, since there is a tendency of working from home, people need homes, their own homes, and in fact, the size of homes has also increased significantly. Use of cash has come down. And one more interesting thing is that in credit and debit cards also, people are now preferring touchless cards. In deposits, we have seen that the saving habits of the people have changed. There's a tendency to save more. So the deposits are increasing from urban and metro centers, whereas in rural and semi-urban areas where most of the migrant labor had gone back, so they, a vast majority of them are either now out of job or they are not getting as much salary as they were getting earlier. So there, the saving habits have come down and the deposits have been reduced. There's a change in the working environment as well. In banking industry in India, there was no practice of work from home. Now each and every bank is finding out ways how to carve out certain work which can be done from home. So some investment is being done on technology also, and a lot of work is being done on carving out some certain areas which can be operated from home. So I think COVID has impacted the way we live, the way we do business, as well as what kind of business we do. That's all from my side. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Actually, all the speakers have given very enlightening talks, quite focused on the topic of discussion. And with that, I'm going to open the floor for audience participation. So I invite your comments, your questions. Your questions could be directed either to the panel as a whole, and one of the panelists can answer them. Or if you have a question for a specific panelist, then kindly name her or him, and that individual can answer your question.
Hello, sir.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So any of the panel member can answer my question. It is not specific to any of the panel member. I have listened all the panel members, and somehow the way the market research has been practiced, more towards the extracting a data, right? Means either from any of the sources, like using some data analytics techniques. So in this now presently, or even for later, do we really need to get data by framing a questionnaire and we'll go for the research like this, or the trend is going to be changed for future research?
Okay, Preeti, can you kindly address that?
Yeah, sure. I thought actually Sandeep and many others had addressed it to to say that it is changing. It was always changing. It is just changing at a faster pace. Survey data will never. I mean, you'll never have a situation where you don't have to do surveys, but as a proportion of the information and data that you have to take business decisions, it will become less and less, because there is a lot of other data that is now available, and and each has its own role to play. So yes, that I think that is very much what is going to happen. In fact, Sandeep, I think, spoke about data, and many people spoke about data scientists and the need for people who can put together multiple sources of data and make sense out of that.
Sandeep, can you kindly add to that?
Sandeep.
Yeah, sure. Sorry, I was speaking on mute. So yeah, that is the direction to be. If we already have something with us, then why go about reinventing the wheel? And plus, people today also don't have too much of time or the energy to basically give the data or their opinions. And plus, the technology itself has evolved so much that you really can integrate multiple types of data with big data coming in with different types of query engines and etc. So if it's there, then why not?
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Sir, I have a question.
Please.
Go ahead. Thank you. My question is actually to all the panel members. Everyone has emphasized that the last few years have shown a very big change in approach and a change in the softwares and tools that we're using. So as a teaching professor, I really want to ask everyone, whether it is, Charu ma'am or Dr. Anshuman, Sandeep sir, Mr. Harish, can they give us some names of these software tools which our students should definitely be learning so that when they go out in the business world in a year or two, they're at least aware of what is happening. So maybe I want to know tools for customer insights, one, tool for online data collection, two, and tools for social listening. Since these were all mentioned, if you could give us, because there's so many tools out there, what is it that the industry is specifically using so that our students are more, apt with these by the time they pass out?
Can I share some insights there?
Absolutely.
Yeah, please.
Yes, please, sir.
Okay, so I have seen this very closely for last 10, 12 years. So I'd love to share that insight. So when I think I did my PhD 10, 12 years back, we learned things like SPSS. And I think many of you will be using SPSS, which is a paid license tool from IBM. And before I name the tools that you should focus on, I'll give a little bit context. You understand the bigger picture, okay? And in industry also, people use tools like SAS, okay? And many big companies also, I have worked, for some Fortune 100 clients, they use things like mainframe and all, right? So some of these tools, technologies were there, but the biggest change that has happened probably in the last 10 years and why you are seeing data science, of course, availability of data is one of the biggest factor. But in addition to that, tool is a big factor, not the feature of the tool, but all the tools I mentioned till now are all paid tools, which requires license, and many of them cost 1,000 USD, 2,000 USD or more. Mainframe cost probably, much more than that. But currently, the tools that, a lot of the tools that we are using are free tools, okay? So especially for the analysis or modeling part, at least whatever I have observed in the industry, R became quite significant, but currently the trend that I see, Python is the clear market leader in terms of the overall computer programming and data science tool space, okay? In addition to that, when you are doing a market research or something, your data volume may be small. So you put the data in Excel or SPSS, a new process, right? But in the new context, we have so much of data, right? And that you cannot put in Excel. You can put probably 100 million rows, but more than that will be difficult. So you need something like a database. And once you have the database, the market researcher or analytics person may not need to create the database, but they need to know how to gather the relevant data from the database. And for that, SQL is extremely, extremely useful in many contexts to gather data, do some basic processing. But you also need domain knowledge. This is not exactly a tool, but somebody gives you probably 10,000 variables and probably 1 billion rows of data. In that case, you need to know what to look at. Yes, your tools will give some insight, but you need to have the domain knowledge there. And the third thing is we are also mentioning this term called big data. I would say probably that is more about the scale and the volume. And that is where in my last few experiences, we have been using different bouquet of tools from AWS, right? So I don't think market researcher may need to get to there, but in case they want to gradually shift towards, more of data science kind of role, then probably some knowledge of some cloud software. So AWS, one of them, there is Azure also, Google Cloud also, but one of the cloud software, some knowledge of that may be very useful. So I'll just conclude by repeating the names that I mentioned. Python for general programming and the algorithms and models, SQL for gathering the data, and AWS for big data or cloud kind of thing. And just adding one more tool, since you also mentioned social listening, and we also had some discussion about CRM and all. In that context, I have seen Salesforce being the dominant player. So even in just not for data analysis or research, but when you are doing email communication or push notification in the app, and many of these things you want to do at scale and personalized way, you can do through Salesforce. And they also have some capabilities to run some online small research. You can send those small surveys in the app or in a website, and customer can answer. So that's what has been my experience. Anyone else wants to add, please go ahead.
I can
Can I add, please?
Yes, please.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Right. So I would agree to a large extent with Anshuman. So you should, okay, so it needs to be broadly divided into, 2-3 areas. I actually got into technology field way back in 2007, when people would still wonder what does research and insights has to do with technology. Today, it's actually turned the other way around. Without technology, there is nothing, right? So in my opinion and experience, I think the entire thing can really be divided into 3 large areas. So first is basically about the database, and the programming part of it. And I think Python certainly is taking a big role. Python and R, I think that's perfectly fine. In database, instead of SQL, I would probably go for NoSQL, not only SQL, which is a big database SQL query. So NoSQL is more important these days than SQL. Again, sorry, my opinion, Anshuman. I hope that's fine.
I think experiences will be different, so I think please go ahead. That's absolutely fine. Depends on the industry, company, and our own experiences. So please go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So SQL is still RDBMS, which is the Relational Database Management System, whereas NoSQL is Hadoop-based open big data systems. Yeah. So these are the 2 large sort of areas when it comes to data management. Along with data management, there is a need for visualization and dashboards. So people should have some sort of either a dashboarding understanding of Tableau, ClickView, or any kind of dashboarding tools. There are plenty of those. So they should certainly understand dashboards and the role that multi-source data can actually play. So dashboards is very, very important, therefore. So that's a third element. And last but not the least is really this whole, and that's where the researchers will now come in. I don't think researchers would be there just to sort of do the project management like how they do today most of the times. Researchers going forward are likely to be the data scientists or the connectors. So they would be able to basically get data from multiple sources, and what IT cannot do, which is plot the dots and form the story, that is what researchers have to do. So this whole course and concept about storytelling becomes very, very important, which is not technology, but it's a very, very fine art. Yeah, thank you. That's from my end.
Harish sir was also adding in, so it would be great to get that input as well.
Sure. I was just going to say, especially because you're dealing with students, I actually agree with what both Anshuman and Sandeep said. Especially Anshuman clarified it very nicely that it is not so much a research question, it is more of a career preparedness question, right? So I would even say take these tools, especially R, SQL, etc., Python, and SQL. You should actually make it very hands-on. The best learning experience on big data I've seen comes from actually hands-on experience. So if you are able to put out a database of 1 million rows and have your students actually pull out insights and segmentation or whatever exercise it may be, that will be the best learning experience, and they'll understand the complexities that go behind handling data of such large quantities, right? So my only add-on to what has been spoken so far is hands-on simulation would be the best learning experience when you realize that it's not something that fits in one Excel sheet or one PowerPoint slide. It will need a database that will sit in some big cloud platform, and that needs to be mined with a client PC which is sitting somewhere else. I think these kind of experiences, when they do it, they'll learn the most. So that would be my request.
Thank you, sir. That's what we're aiming at.
Sorry, I just wanted to add one more thing. We have been talking a lot about algorithms, about data mining, about data science, about a lot of doing number crunching and they being important. But I think as a part of understanding the consumers, the social conversation or the social listening is a very, very key aspect. And there are some, I would say, softwares available through different vendors, even through Google and all, which are called social listening platforms, social studio and all, where you can actually go in and really define the period and look at what kind of social conversations different type of target audience are having across different regions, different age bands, different socioeconomic strata. And I feel the kind of insights that you really get from understanding or looking at the social listening data really gives you in-depth knowledge about what the consumer trends are. And at times you're also able to run simulations on that because you also get to know that what is the quantification of certain conversations. So you actually get to know how important certain conversations are, what is the volume of conversation. So you also get some kind of quantification to know that how critical a social trend is, which is coming out through the social listening. So I feel that even that is a very, very critical qualitative aspect of digital learning these days. So just wanted to add that point there.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you for doing that. We can move on to our next question. There was a very lively discussion.
I had a question. Yeah.
Please.
Yeah. Good evening and good morning, everyone. My question is not directed at anyone specifically, but anyone could take that. It was around the gig economy because of all the job losses or cuts in income and so on. And personally, I am, running a startup where we are actively, trying to contribute in the gig economy by building a platform. So I just wanted if I would be really, happy if the panelists, some of the panelists could share their insights on their experiences, especially in terms of research into understanding how the gig economy has been impacted in COVID times, especially from both supply side as well as demand side. And I'd really be happy if somebody could also share information, not necessarily on the developed economies, but also from an India context.
Any volunteers from the panel?
I think I can share a bit, and then Simant may also share. Swiggy is also very similar kind of platform. So I'll just share probably about my earlier company, which is called Grab. It is the largest kind of startup company in Southeast Asia. So to give you a context, since most of the members are from India, so this is like ride hailing. So in India we have Uber, Ola. So similar to that, we had ride hailing. But in addition to that, we also had food delivery like Swiggy. And we also had payments like Paytm. So it's like a super app with all the things put together. And especially in COVID, so I was initially handling the transport or ride, then went to food. And I could see very interesting patterns coming from the data. That is, you specifically asked the supply and demand side. I think ride hailing was very badly impacted, especially during the start of it and then lockdown and travel being banned. So there was definitely huge double-digit negative impact, double-digit percentage negative impact on ride hailing across the world. I think including India, including Uber, Grab, everybody got hit very hard. And specifically from the gig economy perspective, the drivers got very badly impacted because their sole income was that, and they anyways was getting a moderate income, and their life got impacted very badly. Interestingly, the thing was that we focused more on food delivery once that started. Of course, in India, the trends might have been a little different, but I was in Singapore, and there we could see the trend was very interesting. People adopted food delivery very fast. So Singapore people have this habit of anyways going out and eating. They don't cook food at home. So the moment pandemic happened and all restaurants were closed, people started ordering food on app. And earlier that entire business was driven by promos. So, the profitability was not there. But moment pandemic happened, people ordered without promo. Also, they started ordering a lot. And in addition to that, what I think Simant mentioned, they started the grocery. Similar to that, we also started some grocery kind of thing to deliver. That also picked up. So what we could do is the drivers who were earlier delivering the food, the transport services, the same drivers were delivering food. So though they have a car, they may get food from a restaurant and deliver to the customer. So we could provide them income and opportunities in the form of delivery of food and groceries. So that was very interesting. As a broader macro trend, gig economy is probably going to stay and going to get bigger for multiple reasons. I'll not get into that. And probably, other members can add to more based on their experiences.
Simant, you want to add to that?
Yes, so I'll agree with Anshuman. There is a huge, force of people who work with us as delivery partners, right? And when in April, May, when the business was at 25-30% of its Feb Jan numbers, there was a huge responsibility on us to diversify, understand what are the different business lines where we can, generate opportunities for this workforce, so that we can sustain them, we can and it's part of our responsibility also. And that's when we started off with things like ramping up Swiggy Journey from 5-6 cities to 150 cities, right, where we could use the workforce that we already have in those cities for different purposes. We started off Instamart, right, which would help you get faster deliveries of groceries. So and all of these are now sustainable business lines. It's not that the people that have been trained on these different lines, because this is a little different from food delivery, and the aspects that the person has to be trained have to be different. These are all sustainable lines, and now we require to expand the fleet, right? So all of these factors do kicking, and all of these changes would happen. And that's how we have managed the way we could. That was the best way possible for us to manage the fleet that we had. And from now on, it would be a stronger fleet that we'll have for delivery partners, and that whole aspect of business would grow. So probably I was able to answer your question.
The Instamart service is actually great. I was in Singapore, then I moved to India. So in terms of food, I used Swiggy a lot. And then when I got a flat, I'm ordering a lot of stuff from Instamart. The brilliant thing is that within 20-25 minutes, they are getting all the stuff, delivering to us. And even today, just before this session, I ordered something, and they again, within 30 minutes deliver all the items to my doorstep. So I think that's a brilliant work. Thank you.
Well, it is exactly 7:00 p.m. when the session is supposed to end. So unless there is any pressing final question, does anybody have any pressing final question? If not, I will bring the session
Sir, I'd like
close.
to ask a question, if that's okay.
Okay, this will be the final question. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Good morning also. This is not directed to any particular member of the panel. It's for everyone, anyone who can take this question. Just taking a cue from the previous question, wherein we talked about the impact of COVID on the gig economy, and we have discussed, we have heard from the panel regarding what was the impact of COVID on the businesses, and how these businesses have adapted themselves to cater to this new normal. What I wanted to know or understand is how much of this is here to stay, as in whatever preferences or changes in the preferences that we have seen, how much of this does the panel think is here to stay and stay for long, as in it will not change in maybe a couple of years once the COVID, the thing about the fear about COVID settles down. How much of this will continue to remain then also? Thank you.
I can respond to that, perhaps. The
yes, Russ, thank
experience
you.
in North America is that working from home, staying from home, home as a center of work, leisure, life, is going to increase. That there's some unfortunate things that are going to continue as well. That looking at the macro point of view, COVID has helped the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. And even within the gig economy, that's true. Gig economy is a dirty word here, but I guess if I could just quote Arundhati Roy, she said, historically, pandemics have forced humans to break with the past and imagine their world anew. This one is no different. It is a portal, a gateway between one world and the next. I think the next crises that are going to confront us are global warming, to be sure, and also income inequality. And I think if we don't think ahead in terms of how what we're doing impacts these trends, that we're going to be left behind, that these are as big or bigger, certainly with global warming bigger than the COVID crisis that we're facing right now. And so just in that macro perspective to help keep things in focus, I would like to emphasize that we need to be thinking beyond COVID-19 as well.
I just want to add here, I have started discussing how this coping mechanism, what people are adopting during the time of COVID, how long that will stay. So the study, whatever we have done, we have got some approach strategies like immunity boosting and technology-enabled social distancing, preventing coping, reduced touch points, and also some avoidance strategy, emotion regulation, consumption, distraction, because the stress is still that will be prevailing in the consumer's mind for long term. Even if COVID goes, the stress and whatever the trauma that is there, because that will be there, the consumption habits, whatever they have adapted, they will continue for a long time. So it will not go very quickly. So that's why this will prolong the consumption pattern and behavior, whatever they have adapted, it will stay for a long time.
Yeah,
I just wanted to add just a quick point, Dr. Malhotra, which is agreeing with Satya and also saying that consumers have also found the convenience of doing things differently. It's not only stress. In the stress, they have found that, actually shopping from your phone is a very convenient way to shop. So some of those behaviors will not change because they're just easier to do and more convenient for them.
Yeah, I think, Preeti, that's a good point. I also personally feel that, those changes which consumers have adopted or even embraced because of intrinsic motivations, they are likely to stay and persist, perhaps not to the same extent as we see now, but generally persist. But on the other hand, those changes which have been kind of forced upon them by external forces of COVID-19, like, for example, eating out, people are not eating out now, there is a lot of pent-up demand. And so, human nature being what it is, we are, after all, social beings. And there is a lot to be said for personal social interaction. And many of those will really rebound in short order once the COVID is over. But I thank all the panelists for very insightful comments and for sharing your knowledge and expertise. And thank you to the participants for all your lively questions and participation. And of course, thank you to CME and IML for hosting this workshop. These 2 days have been very interesting, enlightening. And of course, there is more to follow, as you know, as per the program. So with that, I will conclude this session and hand it over to Satya for any final comments, announcements.
Thank you, sir. So on behalf of Center and my personal behalf, I express my full thanks to Professor Malhotra, who is all the way helping us and was here, and all the speakers. Thank you, all of you and participants. We'll definitely continue tracking estimates to understand consumers, people's expectation, perception, and behaviors, and looking forward more meaningful insights. And really thankful to sponsors, our State Bank of India, LIC, for their support for making this workshop possible during the time of pandemics. Networking partner PSL, also our community partner Academy of Indian Marketing Research Society of India, who has helped a lot, DG Analysis, for their support. And now this main workshop come to end, and tomorrow we'll be meeting for this special complimentary session, and I will be also doing something on quantitative, which I've left here, could not complete in marketing engineering also. And towards the end, I would request all of you, if you can switch on your camera, you can take one snapshot to all the speakers, and we'll circulate that thing. So if you can please switch on your camera.
Yeah, people are turning on. We all can smile for the camera.
Oh yeah.
Russ, good to see you virtually.
Good to see you, Naresh, virtually. Do you like the beard?
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Satya, I was going to sign off unless there's something else.
Okay, sir. Nothing else. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I will send mail all the details and we'll.
Okay. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So to all participants, so my request is that please download the software, and tomorrow also towards the end I will be taking that half an hour. If you can look at this data, I can do that quickly. Okay, so we can finish tomorrow, because this will be very long day. We have already spent 2 days and tomorrow. So wish you all best. And all the software are given the sentiment analysis for monitoring consumer projective techniques, qualitative marketing, this data visualization Tableau you should download, and also NVivo. SPSS you must have downloaded. If you could download this marketing engineering, so that I can do some exercises. Okay, then thank you.
Also, just a small thing. Tomorrow is the day where we all will be using a lot of softwares, starting from Sir's MEXL and SPSS if Sir you will use, then Tableau to NVivo. I just request, there is a small suggestion which has been we have been following, that if we have 2 devices at our home, if you want to practice as a hands-on session, what you can do is you can watch from one device and use the software from the other. So if you are watching from, if you have 2 laptops or 1 phone or 1 laptop, you can keep watching the video from other and side by side also practicing, or you can just straight away watch. So this has been one of the suggestions came from one of the participants. So just wanted to share with you. And if you have any issues related to the software installation, of somebody is not able to figure it out, just then let me know in advance. You already have my phone number, right? So we will be in touch, and if any issues, please let me know. Okay.
Yeah, so all the participants are there. Also, I am thankful. Actually, I have forgotten. Ishan, thank you very much for all your support. And Ishan is actually helping us in a long way. So tomorrow, because the session is there, I have forgotten to.
Ishan, we would be needing the recordings of these sessions. So, for example, sometimes in a hurry, we are not able to understand while we have opened the softwares also. So while we have the recording, so we can learn the things much better.
Yes, after the workshops.
All the session recordings, all the 9 to 10 session recordings spread over the 3 days post the workshop, because once we are done with the today's meeting, for instance, Zoom also takes 7 to 8 hours to actually process it. So once we are able to have it, we will share the link. You will be able to download. They are large data file size, so you can have forever access, and you can
Yeah,
refer it to anytime.
all the data are already given.
Yes.
Whatever is required in that folder, my data and others data is given. Only the discussion, whatever is taken place.
Yeah, the discussion.
Yeah, recording will be
Yeah,
shared.
the discussion is important, sir. We want
Yeah,
to.
yeah. Recording will be sharing. You can download and
Yes, it will be shared. It will be shared.
Today
So if you could please share yesterday's PPTs, Dr. Naresh Malhotra's PPTs, it would be great.
Thank you, Satya. Thank you,
all the
Ishan.
PPTs are there. Professor Malhotra was presenting. If there is any problem, then you can specifically request. Okay, I can request Professor Malhotra and give. But book PPTs already I have given.
No, sir, I got that. I got that. But yesterday's PPT is what Dr. Naresh Malhotra was using for describing
Okay, I will send
quantitative
you
techniques and all exploratory and all those research.
No, I will send that. I will send the PPTs.
Also, one more thing so workshop started on 29th yesterday. A few people made the registration in the past 2-3 days. So I hope their PSN account, if it is not activated, it will be activated latest by tonight or by tomorrow early morning. We have already spoken to PSN. There were around 8 to 10 participants who were not able to log in their PSN account. So it will be activated, right? And if you are logging in the screen and you are not able to view the cover page, just click on the library button. You will be able to view the book. That's pretty much. And okay, so looking forward, we'll all be meeting 9:30 tomorrow.
Ishan, one more question. Like, we are able to download the Tableau, but then as well as the NVivo, but we are not able to run it. I mean, I don't know what is the problem.
Ma'am, as so for Tableau, I think when we install, there is a short registration page which will after come installation, and once you enter the details, you will be able to log in this and use the software. Similarly for NVivo also.
You can make a snapshot and send.
Yes.
In the mail, and then Ishan will connect with Manoj
and Avinash also.
Yeah.
Okay.
If there is any issue, just take a snapshot and send us.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much. And see you tomorrow. Good night. Have a good time.
Thank you. Good night, sir.
Night, Professor Satya.